You are watching Tech Talk, and our guest today is changing the way we see autism, but even more so, changing the way people with autism see the world. Dr. Ned Sahin, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
And I guess I should be more specific. Your technology is what we're going to be focused on today, and it's the first time, actually, that you are presenting this here in Switzerland.
Absolutely.
Tell me about it. This is Empower.
Yeah, so the Empowered Brain product allows people who have different ways of seeing the world to get real-time cues on how best to interact with others. And in a way, it's very simple, although it draws on a lot of deep neuroscience and computer technology. So a student will put on this device and get points for looking toward someone else.
Okay.
Will get rewards for guessing their emotions. It's like a video game of interaction.
And this is because people with autism normally are not able to react on these social cues, or?
Yes, and there are different theories on whether some things are actually stressful, like making eye contact, whether some cues get ignored, or it just takes a little bit longer for some people to understand them.
So this works just like glasses. You put them on your face. Walk me through a little bit of what I would see.
Absolutely. So when I'm looking through you, looking at you, I would see, for instance, a circle around your face. If I look away, nothing happens. When I look back toward you, that circle completes. I get points, I get rewards, and we're having a social interaction. Meanwhile, I am not looking down and stuck in another world. I'm actually in this world, but with more information.
And this is especially, I know that you work with children and adults, but I assume this is especially successful with children.
It's successful with young children, with older children, with young adults who are transitioning potentially into the community, trying to find jobs. And I'll say that people with autism, 80% are without a job.
Because and you think this comes from the fact that they cannot manage these social behaviors.
No, someone might have amazing skills to be an accountant, to be a computer programmer, or an artist, and yet that interview is going to be a real struggle. I've interviewed people because we hire people with autism. I've interviewed people who never looked at me once during the interview, but I know how to interact with that.
Yes, exactly, but you know how to do that.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, autism is a different thing, but I think that generally there are a lot of people that struggle with this kind of interaction, especially like an interview situation, a job interview or so, that don't have autism, right?
You know, it's one of the things that I think these are life skills and life struggles. It's very difficult to know whether someone is happy, interested, or bored based on an eye crinkle or a lip curl. These are subtle signals that we have to read, and we learn to read them, but it takes time. For some people, it takes more time, and then you just don't get invited to play in that kind of nuanced social interaction, so you don't even get the data, and it becomes even harder, and you fall further behind. But these are human challenges. Really, there isn't anyone out there, I think, who can perfectly read what his or her partner is thinking or feeling at any point in time. Right? So we all need that assist, but this is like that little life coach, that little assist, and it lives on you, but it can live on you for maybe half an hour or less per day, and then you get your reps in, you train, and then the skills become more natural for the rest of the day.
So, in effect, they are looking at you, they look in your direction. They're not looking at you, though, but at least you're building a habit of looking.
I'd say it also trains posture. You know, look how we are. We're squared up, facing each other or facing the world, and there's a certain thing that comes along with that. I look at your poise, and I make a judgment about you. And if someone is avoiding, or if someone is kind of shifting away the attention, one may make a judgment about that person that's not true, and it's unfair. But that's why you might not get through an interview. We're helping that postural training and that attentional training as much as the literal eye contact.
Okay, so talk to me a little bit more about this technology. You're presenting it at Google here in Switzerland, and funny enough, you use Google Glass, and I say funny enough because, you know, there were rumors out there that Google Glass had just died a sudden death. But in effect, it's in version 3, as I understand it, and you are using it, so.
Google has released version 1, 2, and 3 of Google Glass, and it's an amazing computer that does a lot of things. I think the public might not have been ready for some of the things that it can do or to understand exactly why it would be necessary. But there is this perfect confluence where children and adults with autism tend to like technology. The newer generations of folks like technology. There is new possibility with artificial intelligence to do things like to analyze 52 million face impressions and determine what it is that makes you look suddenly surprised like that, or happy or interested. So all of the technology and a lot of the neuroscience and the dopaminergic system being better understood all came together at just a time, and I got in there, into this stream of technological advances and brought it to people who really can benefit from it. And that's why it's such a particularly compelling use case for a heads-up technology like this.
And, of course, a criticism always of technology is that, especially when there are images, virtual reality, augmented reality involved, is that it actually works in the opposite way in terms that it makes people more antisocial and they don't engage in the real world. How do you reconcile that?
Parents often have this reaction now, oh no, we're going to become less human. We're going to interact with each other less. But let me make a comparison. On the one hand, this ubiquitous piece of technology, if I'm interacting with it, I'm looking down. My ears are down, my eyes are down, the world is out there, and I'm not interacting with it. But in contrast, let's put this down and let's look up at the world. And this device lets me look toward you, get points for doing so, and give this social affirmation. It's a little bit of fun, and it's a lot of learning. I am in the world with you. The same reality that you occupy, except I get a little extra information.
And it also, as I understand it, can detect movement.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I mean, how far along are you with it? I mean, what other physiological signals can you pick up with that?
Okay, so we can measure your blink rate. We can measure signs of autonomic stress, meaning, do you have more anxiety in this situation? Let's say when you're on camera. And can we help you attenuate that anxiety? Meaning, get familiar with the place before you go there, or with an exercise like a job interview. And that's one of the reasons we sell this to both school districts and transition programs, so that people can practice job interviews ahead of time, or can practice something as simple as getting on and off a train or tram or bus.
And this is where something like your 360 camera comes into play.
Yeah, so this camera is very simple. Most of this you're seeing is the stick that it lives on. It's a simple camera here, and when I press the button, I'll get an image, and that image is the entire room. For instance, here we are right now, and that's showing everything in the room. Why is that useful? Ceiling, floor, lights, exits, and noise sources, is that this is not a room I'm familiar with. If I got a chance to practice this before, I would feel more comfortable right now. Now imagine I'm someone that takes 2 weeks to get comfortable with a new classroom or something like that, and the person can just practice it. Like right now, I'm actually looking at a classroom, and if I want to explore, I can tap, move into another classroom, and now I'm familiar with the environment.
Talk to me about your company.
Yes.
You founded BrainPower in 2015, correct?
Yeah.
And since then, tell me about your journey. You started in crowdfunding, which I found quite interesting.
Yeah.
Why did you decide to go that route?
To listen to what the market wants most. We gave multiple options, and we were able to hear what they wanted. And because a crowdfund is the ability for people to purchase a product and a little bit of a dream. And we needed both sources of feedback. We started right there from selling our product, and now we're selling it to school districts in America right now. And so this has gone from laboratory research through clinical trials and testing to productization, and is now a viable, commercially available product. And the reason I stress that is, one, my own personal journey as a scientist to an entrepreneur, but also because I think people need to hear more stories of being able to do good and do well, meaning do something that's socially responsible, can help children, and make it into an actual business.
Well, yes. I mean, I think that's the dream of many entrepreneurs. And as it stands, BrainPower is still a startup.
Yes.
Right? But you don't rely on any outside funding.
We haven't had to take any outside debt, meaning VC funding or anything like that. So we have government grants, quite a few government grants for autism and for other brain-related conditions. and even companies have given us grants, as well as charities have given to us because they see that what we're doing is in line with their principles and yet practical and tangible, which can be quite different than some other work.
And talk to me about Switzerland. Are you going to be rolling it out here anytime soon?
So I love the idea that Switzerland has invited this kind of technological showcase here, and I'm proud to be able to be here. I will not be selling in Switzerland in the immediate future because of the GDPR laws. Is this something you're familiar with, these laws?
Yes, but go ahead and lay out why this is an obstacle for you.
So Europe banded together and created laws putatively about policy and privacy, which sounds good, but it's very, very restrictive, limiting, and not very well defined, I would say. And
well, some people would argue it's good for privacy, but
it's
for
great.
data privacy.
It seems great for data privacy. It seems like, for me, as a business decision, I won't do business with Europe. There's the rest of the world, and there are people who I am familiar with in America, and there are people who very much need this kind of technology outside of Europe, in more developing countries. So Europe becomes the last place I'll go to because it's just the amount of money I would have to spend to hire lawyers to craft something that is a policy that responds to this enormous law is just doesn't make any business sense.
Because what do you do with the data?
What we do with the data is research to understand more about autism and to help our product. We're doing the good thing with data, and yet proving that legally and writing new documents and being able to be sued for enormous amounts of money if someone decides that we're the one to pick on, it just is a risk that there's no reason to take when there are millions of people around the rest of the world, 70 million, who can benefit.
And okay, so if you're in America or somewhere outside of Europe, what kind of investment is this? I mean, what?
Yeah, okay, so the price point, you're asking how much does this cost? And we make it affordable for schools, so they pay per student something that's around what they might pay for an iPad. And
so, I don't know.
It kind of depends on the market. Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. So in the hundreds, and so they're paying like that, and then students can benefit from this, and they can also graduate off the program. And if they no longer need this assist, then the next student uses the device and the license.
Well, it definitely seems like you're in the right market. I mean, I've got this great numbers where the global EdTech and smart classrooms market, it's estimated to grow to from 43.27 billion to almost 94 billion by the year 2020.
Wow. Well, that's amazing. And why would that number be there? Because there are that many children and young adults who can benefit from something like this.
Now, as I understand it, you came upon this idea after taking a trip around the world, a bit of a sabbatical for a year. You do not have anyone in your close circle with autism or children. So what is driving this? Where does this motivation come from?
Human interest. So as you mentioned, I traveled around the world with my wife for a year with no phone in 23 countries and came back and launched Brainpower. And it was a series of epiphanies around access to technology. Very interestingly, even in very, very developing countries, they may have access to technology and it can be a leveler, and yet there are many deep social stigmas around mental health. So I care a lot about things that are invisible and that get in your way. So mental health challenges or even brain injuries. I wanted to do something as a PhD-trained neuroscientist, and I wanted to do something that was very practical and help people in their daily lives, and this is what came out of that thinking.
Interesting. So what is the future? What's the next level of technological development for your Empower?
Well, wonderful things are happening in artificial intelligence that will allow us to even read the more subtle of emotions and states. There are new technologies coming out in terms of the wearable technologies. And quite importantly, I'm trying to adapt technology to even reverse the equation. And I'll connect with how you opened this segment, which was changing the way we see autism and people with autism see the world. We're actually now trying to address both sides of that equation. Imagine if not only someone with autism puts on glasses and sees the neurotypical world,
Yeah.
Imagine if you can put on glasses and feel like you're autistic for a day, or even for 10 minutes,
Well, that
and
would,
build empathy.
exactly. That would definitely build empathy, I think. But I guess I was imagining, is there at some point is it going to become not so much a wearable as an you know, as a contact lens or something like this?
Absolutely. So
And how far away are we from that?
the technology is not the point. The human interaction is the point, and the technology is there to motivate and engage. If this can be done in a contact lens form or even in some kind of haptic device, all the better. And that's coming.
Okay.
And other things are coming in terms of societal acceptance of technology and of these mental differences, neurodiversity, and newer artificial intelligence and neuroscience-based technologies are coming. So much is coming, but don't worry, this is not scary AI takes over the world. This is actually humans becoming even more interactive and you could say more human.
Well, thank you so much for being with us today, Ned, and thank you so much for your insights. It was very interesting.
Thank you so much. Thank you.